When we look at this issue of evolution versus creation and the controversy, it's not just enough to look at the problems with evolution. You know, we've already looked and we saw that the claims don't stand up to the evidence. But something else I think is important to discuss when we look at this whole idea, and that is there evidence that God exists? Do we see evidence that his handiwork, that his fingerprints, that his signature are all over the place? Well, I believe that is the case. You know, whether we're looking at scientific textbooks, we can see God's handiwork, or if we're looking at living systems, I think God's evidence that he is real, that he exists, can be seen if you have eyes to see. We're going to be looking this morning at the whole idea of design, and we're going to look at it from the standpoint of several different ideas. The first one is looking at a design system means that it's going to have tremendous complexity. There's going to be multiple interrelated essential components that all have to be present and functioning for systems to work. You know, if you think of your human body and all the different systems of it, what happens if you take the pulmonary system away? Or the circulatory system? Or the excretory system? Or the nervous system away? It's going to shut down, won't it? You see all these different systems, they have to be integrated and working together. Another aspect of design is purposefulness. The whole idea that form and function go hand in hand. And we'll see evidence of that throughout this presentation. We'll also see the idea of planning, where evidence of foreknowledge and superb engineering can be seen in the way God designed living systems. Now, it's interesting, if we look at the Bible, it tells us that we should be able to recognize another element of design, and that is when we look at something, things don't just simply spontaneously appear out of nothing, do they? The only time that happens to me is when I'm looking in the refrigerator for something and I can't find it, and then I call my wife over and she just pulls the thing right out. I mean, that's spontaneous generation. But in reality, we really don't see that type of thing going on. The Bible says in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 4, "For every house is built by some man, but he that builds all things is God." Has anybody here ever seen a house that built itself? I mean, some of them you live in, you wonder about it, right? But the reality, in order to have the plumbing, to have the electrical, to have the drywall, to have the structure itself, there had to be someone who knew how to design things and put it together, right? And I like this verse because it talks about that he that builds all things is God. What does the word all mean? It means all, doesn't it? He's the creator of all things. What we're going to be looking at is what I entitle the most magnificent, most amazing, most marvelous masterpiece in this entire known universe. How do you like that for a title? And we're also going to be looking at the greatest wonder of all. Now, you know, if I were to go on Main Street and ask somebody, what do you think is the most complex bit of matter that we have here on this big blue planet? You know, someone might say, well, maybe it's the NASA space shuttle. I mean, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? Be able to make this thing, send it up into space, have it travel for a while, come back, and then send it back and forth. I mean, we can see some incredible technological advancements with that. Somebody else may say, no, it's IBM's supercomputer. This thing can do 12.3 trillion operations per second. That's pretty amazing, right? By the way, do you know that the supercomputer sitting on your shoulder can do more than that? But even so, IBM's pretty amazing computer they've got. Somebody else may say, well, maybe it's not so much the technology that's so impressive. What about the statue of David by Michelangelo? I mean, that's a masterpiece, right? Well, all these things are pretty marvelous, but I think none of them rival or even come close to the one thing that the Bible says is made in the very image of God. To me, that's intriguing. The one thing that's made in his image, the human body, happens to be the most complex, most remarkable bit of matter, if you will, not even on this planet, but as far as we know, as far as the universe extends. That says a lot right there.